Hi, and welcome all to yet another episode of Tea with Tanya. This is your host, Tanya. And let me give you a small glimpse about the person we have on board with us today. He is an entrepreneur. He is an entrepreneur turned chronologist. He is one of the most leading and celebrated authors of one of the most favorite compendiums on Bhubaneswar right now. And he is also an avid and an old lover of Bhubaneswar. We have with us Mr. Debasish Patnaik, fondly known as Debu Patnaik. Namaskar, sir. Welcome to this episode of Tea with Tanya. Thank you so much for joining us. So, my very first question to you would be, sir, that, while I was going through this beautifully catalogued book, this is what I was wondering that Bhubaneswar is at least 1,000 years old city, but the new avatar is only 75 years old. I mean, how does it work?
Okay, let me correct you first. In my perception, Bhubaneswar is not 1,000 years, it is much more than that. Bhubaneswar can be traced up to 500 BC, that is 2,500
500.
years. Now, you might ask, what is the evidence? Now, you have heard about Sisupalagada.
Yes.
Sisupalagada is one of the most and well kept, most ancient and well kept fortifications in the country, which can be traced up to 500 BC. Same Sisubalagoda has a mention during Ashoka's time as Tosali, and in Kharabala's time as Kalingapuram.
Kalingapuram.
So Kharabala was 200 BC
Right.
and Ashoka was 300 BC.
So we can trace it back up to at least
At
500 BC.
500 BC, we can trace up to. And this is one of the oldest habitations in the country, because you see Sisupalagada, which can be traced up to 500 BC. Then you have all these temples, which have come up in different centuries.
Right.
And now we have the new Bhubaneswar.
Correct. Huh. So it's been a
So
continuous
it has
habitation.
been a continuous habitation for, I would say, up to 2,500 years. Varanasi is supposedly one of the oldest habitations in the country, but Bhubaneswar is no less.
I have heard tales that the very first election, a political election, the concept of it started from Bhubaneswar. There was something called Chanda, which is why the area around it is now known as Chandaka or Chanda. I think it was
Chanda.
Chanda, right? So is it true that, the
You
one
see,
of the.
these are folklores. We don't know. There are a number of similar stories around, but there is no proof of it. There is no manuscript supporting that, so we can't really confirm it or can say it with authority. But yes, this is a folklore.
Yeah, a lot of similar, nuances have been heard about the Puri temple, the old Puri road, the road that was once connecting Puri to the rest of the country,
Jagannath Sadak.
Jagannath Sadak, absolutely. So all of these do exist, or is it only a part of the myth and folklore now?
No, Jagannath Sadak is there, is partly there, but what has happened is over the years, with the new roads coming up, Jagannath Sadak got
Has
spoiled.
lost its integrity, yes.
And fortunately, unfortunately, we have not been able to preserve them. In the process, there has been encroachments, there has been damage to the old road. So you find possibly buildings on that road even today.
Right. So if I ask you, on a very objective note, like what takes away your attention when it comes to Bhubaneswar as an ancient city? Was it the temples coming up at different times, or was it the modernization of Bhubaneswar as it is? What was the crux of it that really attracted you to this whole thing?
It was the new Bhubaneswar that
Attracted
excited
you?
me, because Bhubaneswar came up in 1948. I have been telling, there is a general perception everywhere in the country that Bhubaneswar and Chandigarh came up together, and these are the two planned cities of
Planned
this
cities,
country.
yes.
But Bhubaneswar is senior to Chandigarh.
In its making?
Yes. Bhubaneswar is the first planned city of India, which came up in 1948. The foundation stone was laid, and 1949 onwards, Bhubaneswar has been the capital of Odisha. Whereas Chandigarh foundation was laid 53 or 54.
A few years later, yes.
Yes.
So, this is what my next question to you would be, learning from you that it's at least 2005 years, 500 years old, and we can date it back to 500 BC, if not more. And, we have a fairly continuous habitation in the city, and it's one of the first cities to be planned. In fact, the first city to be planned, as a matter of factly. Why has Bhubaneswar over the time lost its touch on the Indian map? And a lot of other cities have taken precedence, a lot of other states have taken precedence, and Bhubaneswar itself got lost in time. I mean,
No. Bhubaneswar, what has happened is we have been one of the poorest states for 4 or 5 decades. Since independence, we have been one of the poorest states. There are a number of other reasons for that, but consequently, Bhubaneswar has not been as you know popular, I would say, as let's say we are talking of Chandigarh. What is the difference in Chandigarh and Bhubaneswar? Chandigarh is the capital of two major moneyed state of the country, Punjab and Haryana,
Haryana.
and also an union territory itself. So there are three states or three identities contributing to Chandigarh, whereas Bhubaneswar is backed by the poor Odisha government. You see, we were poor. We have been in deficit for
Too long.
too long, 5, 6 decades. Today, we are one of the cash surplus states, but things were not as attractive as it is. But in this century, Bhubaneswar is coming up and has become a destination and is going to go quite
Places, yeah,
far.
quite a long way. What really interested you in modern Bhubaneswar?
See, that was not a interest per se, but yes, I have lived my life almost in Bhubaneswar, and in spite of being a small new city, the new Bhubaneswar has been a new city for hardly 75 years. There's not been much of documentation done. And sitting during the COVID with nothing to do, I thought maybe I owe it to the city because whatever I am today, it is because of my society, my city. So I thought that I owe it to the city.
But when you compare Bhubaneswar to the other fast growing metropolis, and when you compare it to the other second tier cities nearby, it somehow is not up to the race. A lot of people who come from outside and stay here, they feel that Bhubaneswar is somehow lacking that liveliness, that buzz in the city. We do have, festivities around, we have a lot of different cultures here. But, the essence of a fast growing city is somehow lost upon Bhubaneswar. Would you agree to that?
I think I agree to that certain extent, but simultaneously I think we have Bhubaneswar is blessed that it is not moving fast.
How do
we
you mean?
we 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 still have these small time romances of the small city which continues to be there in Bhubaneswar and which would have been lost otherwise in a fast moving city. I don't want to name any city, but Bhubaneswar is has been a sweet city, continues to be that.
A very laid back city.
Very laid back city because basically Odias are laid back.
Yes.
I remember the days when Bhubaneswar used to be shut down after 12 noon.
Oh, yes.
Okay, all these shops will close by 12:30 and open after 4:30.
This reminds me of a very fond memory of mine. One of my friends was visiting me from some other state, and we were going around the city showing him places. And he somehow noticed that all the medicine shops were closed. And after his observation, he tells us, ये भुवनेश्वर में दोपहर को कोई इमरजेंसी होगी तो कब मरेगा आदमी, मतलब शाम तक मरेगा तो चलेगा. And we had a gala time about this, and that's when we realized, acha ha, so even the medicine shops, they, not all of them, but most of them, in the
Almost all of them.
almost all of them, they do shut down in the afternoons, because we are firm believers of afternoon siesta. So that is something, that I find something really, really.
No, that is one reason is afternoon siesta. The other reason is Bhubaneswar was an administrative capital.
Right.
So most of the people who lived in Bhubaneswar in initial stages were working in government offices. Now they used to go to their office at 10 o'clock and the kids would go to school.
They would come back
They would come back after 4
after for huh?
and these officials would come back after 5.
5.
So there is no activity in between.
Right.
So there's nobody coming in for a purchase of, let's say, a shirt or maybe something else. That was another reason why the shopkeepers closed down their shops in the afternoons.
Because there was no footfall.
There was
Yes,
no footfall.
footfall. Right, right. But over the time, especially if we take this recent decade, there is a lot of boom in restaurants, cafes, and all those eateries, and and we are losing out on a lot of parks. We are losing out in a lot of freeway walking space in the city. Does that displease you, or does that dissatisfy you to see?
No, that's a matter of major concern because the city, as it was planned in the initial days, primarily the main city was possibly from Forest Park to Pani Bihar.
Okay,
This was the
oldest city.
original plan. Now, as we are expanding, and that planning had its own, basic
Concept to it.
concepts and I would say the the thought behind those residential colonies, which are called units, was that it will be compact units accommodating all the different cadres of officers or government servants, and they would have everything in that locality itself. A school would be there, a health dispensary would be there, a small market would be there, a playground will be there. So those are compact units, each one of them. Now what has happened as we are expanding, there has not been a many people may not agree with me what I'm saying, but there has not been a long-term comprehensive development plan for Bhubaneswar,
Okay.
which even today is required. Fine, we have not had it, but we should now plan something for the expanding city. The city, what was planned for maybe 20, 30,000 people, is housing probably more than 2 million people. And this doesn't include the floating population. So we need a proper comprehensive development plan which is long term
Right.
for next 50 years or 100 years.
100 years, yes.
That kind of planning is required at this stage.
Right. I have been constantly hearing about two sets of sentiments. So Katakiyas fondly call themselves Saiwalas, they have that, that sense of unity among themselves. This is my Sai and we belong to this Sai. But that is not something that happens in Bhubaneswar, which is why a lot of Katakiyas feel that, what Bhubaneswar Walas truly lack as the essence is, the sense of unity, and they are way too much detached from each other. Would you concur to that sentiment?
That sentiment is correct to certain extent, and possibly was acceptable till end of the last century. Because why that thing came up is Bhubaneswar was those units, those
Uh-huh.
residential units.
Segregated, yes.
Okay. Now these units had people living there who are on they are government servants. They are on transferable jobs.
So they're not really
So
attached. Yeah.
they are not attached to this building or the
Absolutely.
accommodation or the
Development of,
locality.
yeah, even the development of the
Okay,
city,
because
right?
he is there for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, then he is moving out.
Right.
And in some cases, what used to happen is even the officers, even though they continue to be in the same city, they would look for a better house in a better locality
Yeah.
and move away. So that, what do you say, that, uh, what would be the right word? Possibly that apnapan
Apnapan, huh?
for the locality
Huh.
was
Lost
absent.
on them, yeah. So only when you stay
So
back,
that
huh?
is the contrast we had with Katak.
Katak, huh?
But abito we have residential colonies where
Means
people
can live forever.
live
Yes,
forever.
absolutely. So this brings me to the next question. If I go around the city, when I look at Old Town area, it's such a pretty and very tight knit locale. If I come to the Forest Park area, very posh. The Suryanagar area, very posh, very segregated into its own corner. And then I come to the Patia side, and it's hustling, bustling, and the city comes itself into a life. And so when I look at Bhubaneswar from that bird's eye view, I was trying to be as objective as you while I was going through your book. So I could not relate to this new Bhubaneswar myself. Like if I'm in Patia, I have different emotions running through me. Everybody has somewhere to go and somewhere to reach. But if I'm in Old Town, there is a feel of that community. If I'm in Forest Park area, I totally feel out of place. I don't belong here. Yeah. So how did you, when you were cataloging this book, when you were going around and you were, I've seen the mentions and photographic, plates of once upon a time, one stop solution stores situated in Bapuji Nagar. And when those things went out, I mean, what was the kind of transition that you went through as a youth back then?
I'll tell you some interesting things. Maybe let's talk about healthcare. There's nothing excepting Capital Hospital. And there used to be one municipality hospital in the old town. Now, today, you have state of the art super specialty hospitals all around
All
Bombay.
around.
So, that transition and the old days, the doctor used to come to your house.
I've seen it in movies. They used to have a family doctor who would come for any kind of problems. Yes.
Any
Huh?
kind of problem, they used to come to your house. Today, you have to go and go to the OPD,
Take an
take
appointment.
an appointment, and then go and meet the doctor.
Right.
Now, elderly people who have lived here in Bhubaneswar, let's say in the 60s and 70s, they, when they grow old in 2000 and 2005, they are still looking for that doctor to come in and respond, or their children are still looking for a doctor who can come and see their parents, which was not happening. So, that is the kind of changes that we have seen in the city, which was very prevalent. A doctor coming to your house was very common. Unless he is too busy a doctor. There used to be one gentleman called Dr. Gadadhar Mahapatra. Now, this gentleman was a doctor in municipality hospital. In fact, to certain extent, this hospital was popularly known as Gadadhar Mahapatra Hospital. It was not municipality hospital. Of course, it was municipality hospital, but it was known as Gadadhar Mahapatra Hospital. So, this gentleman was very popular, so he never used to visit anybody's house unless it's a VVIP.
Uh-huh.
But otherwise, doctors were available on call
Acha.
to come to
Okay.
your house. today, you cannot dream of any doctor coming to your house.
Absolutely.
That is the kind of transition we have seen in
So
Pune.
does it break your heart a little to see such kind of transitions? Or is it okay? I mean,
No,
it's
that is, you see, I would, you are making me nostalgic, but yes, that is the way of life. Like, um, 80s, 70s, we didn't have a telephone in house. And let's say the community or that road had one or two telephones, and people used to share that.
oh, I remember, yes.
Now we have two or three telephones. So that is the change in life. So Bhubaneswar is no exception. So
Right.
everywhere same thing happens.
So tell us about the book, how you gathered I saw some really old picture plates in your book and they were beautifully placed, in a very chronological. So coming to chronology, right? Why did you choose that particular method to, publish this book? You could have kept it as haphazard as possible, but you chose a sequence to show things.
No, you have probably not realized, or you might have noticed that we have moved from one end to other in the book. What we have done is we have started from the old town. We have started from the temple site because that is older than the new Bhubaneswar. So we have started from Dholi, one extreme end, and gone up to the north
Part
west
of the, yeah.
city, which is Nandankanan. So movement is, or the presentation is, moving with time, and similarly
Geography.
geography.
Yes.
And talking about the photographs or the old photograph that you have had seen in this book, I had to reach out to a number of people who have lived in Bhubaneswar in those times and had images. Those days we used to have a lot of expats staying in Bhubaneswar. Like they were research scholars in universities or consultants with funding agencies like UNICEF, WHO, CARE, and there were people in with this agriculture university OUAT. So these foreigners taken number of pictures because those days camera was a big thing for us.
It was a luxury.
For a common man, there was no camera. Camera was, or the pictures that were taken was mostly by the government departments, which were not really preserved well. And I had to reach out to these people through different sources. I managed two, three of them, and I got some pictures from net also, and tried to reach out to the gentleman who had lived in late 60s in Bhubaneswar. I could not trace him. I got his pictures, I used his pictures, gave him credit, but I could not trace him. I went up to US to look for him. I could not trace him. I looked for his children, didn't get them. But their pictures are there in the book. So I've given them credit,
Hoping that,
hoping that at some point of time when
when they
they
read the
see it,
book, yes, they realize that the
they
pictures
read.
have been used
Yes.
with due credits. So, was there any point while you were documenting this book? Was there a point where you wanted some pictures desperately to portray something or to show some part of Bhubaneswar, but you couldn't actually get any pictures for them?
There are a number of such issues. Number of issues, but there has been some people who have come forward with a helping hand in the sense, like you would see, there was an incident. Everybody knows that Indira Gandhi Park, that story of parade ground, Indira Gandhi Park.
Tell us anyway, please.
Oh, okay. Now, Indira Gandhi Park was earlier known as parade ground.
Parade ground.
Okay, most of the this ceremonial parades were held there, and public meetings were held there.
Right.
And oftentimes, boys used to play. The last meeting the then Prime Ministers Indira Gandhi had, public meeting Indira Gandhi had, was in that parade ground,
Which is why it is now known as the Indira
Indira
Gandhi.
Gandhi Park, because she had the meeting. The next day she flew back to Delhi and
And she
she was
got gunned down, yes.
assassinated the next day morning. So this park became Indira Gandhi Park. Now this part of the story everyone knows. But people don't know, or very few people know, that Indira Gandhi also faced another challenge in the same ground in 1967 or 68 when she was holding a public meeting and a stone was pelted on her. Her face, her neck was broken,
Oh,
so whole thing was plastered, and she was lifted to Delhi. But the picture of Indira Gandhi with those plasters and all was not available anywhere. A friend of mine helped me in that. I could manage to get a photo of that, which you would not get in
anywhere
anywhere
that
else.
commonly, yes.
Yes.
Yes. So when you were looking at Bhubaneswar, part by part, like you started from the one of the oldest parts of the city, and then when you came to the fairly newest part of the city, could you see a transition happening right in front of you even while documenting this book?
No, because that was too short a period. Where I did it in 3 4 years time. But yes, one major development that has happened during that period would be the development in Kalinga Stadium. The sports activity and the sports infrastructure that we have today is not only outstanding, it is one of the best in the country. And in such a small place, you would not get this kind of world class facilities anywhere in the country. So, what happens is these boys, most of these boys who are preparing for international events, they want to come to Bhubaneswar and practice.
Yeah, I've heard so, yes.
You're this javelin
Neeraj.
Neeraj. Neeraj, before he went to Olympics, he was here in Bhubaneswar and practicing here. So, because we have this kind of infrastructure, we have created that kind of infrastructure. So, that's a big achievement for the state, for the city.
Right. So, Bhubaneswar is very popularly known as the temple city, and rightly so, because we have so many ancient temples dating back to older centuries. But while you were documenting some of these, like you mentioned, Dholi, you started everything with Dholi. What did you come upon, or did you chance upon temples that are completely lost now, like lost in time? We don't talk about them, we don't hear about them. There's no concrete evidence about them anywhere anymore.
No, I have not worked much on that because my focus was New Bhubaneswar.
New Bhubaneswar.
So I have not, I must have left out few things. So maybe better luck next time
Of
and
course, of
hope there
course.
is a next time.
I am sure that every room left is a room for improvement. So, keeping that in mind, I hope you soon write another book with such a beautiful compendium. Because speaking for myself strictly, I'm fairly new to the place. So, which is what I told you over the call. You and me talking would be like two contemporaries talking about the same thing. You being a local and you being such a loyal local to, Bhubaneswar, who felt it in his bones that you owe something to the city and you wanted to give it back in the form of this book. I myself am fairly new to the city. I've always considered myself as an outsider. And I'm still looking at Bhubaneswar with very fresh eyes. I'm still trying to get a hang of the city. Like I said, I would never be able to feel things that you did while you were writing the book or compiling the book. But, while going through your book, I had a sense of deja vu. It was like, I was there. Like I was there when that one stop solution store.
There were two of them.
Haha.
One was Burma General Store, which
Yeah.
is Kalamandir today,
Haha.
and there used to be another T. Krishna Patra.
T. Krishna Patra. So when I looked at that store and I saw a lot of people bustling out of it, I thought like, oh, this is what it feels like to have, something a kind of a mall, but not a mall in those times, where people would go and buy all kinds of commodities for themselves. And it feels great to see that nostalgia on your face while we are talking about it. So like I would like to understand, if you had to define soul of Bhubaneswar in one sentence today, for today's Bhubaneswar, how would you do that?
Where you see the past, you see the present, and also you feel the future. You know that this is one place which might host part of the Olympics in 2036. This is one place which would probably be hosting another world class sports event in Bhubaneswar in
Near future,
near
yes.
future.
Yeah, I mean, keeping the population size ratio of the city, and to be able to pull off two back-to-back World Cup events in the state has been a remarkable feat for the state and the state citizens. But like talking about how chronologically you have gathered information for part-wise Bhuvneshwar, so I would identify you as somebody as a chronologist, but chronologists are usually historians at heart and soul. But what would you like to say about yourself? Because you are an entrepreneur turned into a chronologist. I mean, are they same? Are they different?
No, no, this is absolutely two different territories, completely different territories. But having lived in this city for such a long period and seen the development from the very early stages and losing out number of things. You mentioned about a picture or a image that you could have accommodated in the book which you looked for. I talked about that Indira Gandhi incident. There used to be Bhubaneswar has number of culverts. You know what is a culvert? Culvert is a small bridge
Okay.
in front of any house or building
Okay, okay, okay.
which covers the drain,
And connects it to the main road.
connects it to main road, but it has got two side small walls
Aha,
types.
ha, ha. The bridge walls.
Bridge walls type which is not even 1 feet
Yeah.
or maybe 1.5 feet, that something between 1 and 1.5 feet. And these were places where people used to come and sit in the afternoons or evenings. You know, maybe after 4 o'clock, people would come, sit
It
in
was
the
like a
car.
small balcony for them.
It was, as they say, khatti.
Khatti.
Okay,
Adda.
adda. Now, there is one opposite, there's a place called Institution of Engineers.
Yes.
Institution of Engineers is in front of Sachivalaya Mark, on the Sachivalaya Mark, opposite the Red Cross Bhavan. It has a culvert at its
Okay.
entrance. And there used to be 4, 5 elderly people in their 70s, 80s. They come every day and sit there
On those bridge walls.
on those bridge walls and chit chat for hour or two, then go home. They must be from people from surrounding areas because they come walking. They are not those days. There was no cycle. I mean, there was no motor cars
Vehicles, yeah.
available. So they were must be walking with a walking stick and come and sit there. But the question is that that friendship or that commentary that you see among those elderly people every day religiously coming and sitting. And they were not young boys that you talk of khattis and all. They were pretty old people. So elderly people. So I wanted an image of that because we used to say that if you have not seen those people or if you have not met those people, then you have not seen Bhubaneswar.
Yeah, I mean, only I can wonder at this point. So imagine a group of elderly people coming to one place every day on the same time without actually contacting each other, with just the hope that if I go, I know he would be there waiting for me. And that's profound. That's profound. Like if I had to meet somebody today, I would have to give them a call, then remind themselves. And then maybe we could be 10 minutes, a little late or early from each other. But this is so profound. This is so soulful. I mean, a group of people coming to meet each other every day for no reason apparently, but at the same right time.
Same right time, and without fail every day.
Without
Without fail every day.
without fail every day. Wow. And that culvert was the place and the
That
witness.
culvert was the place.
Do we have such culverts now? I mean, is
Yeah,
it?
we have some of them, but not much.
And you couldn't get a picture of that?
I couldn't get a picture of. I wanted a picture of those old 4-5 people.
But you had seen them. You had
I have
seen,
seen them. I
and
have
you
seen them.
wanted somebody who would have seen the same thing and maybe documented it in a photograph. Wow. So I think when we are talking about this, this goes on to say that cameras were really important back then.
Yes, cameras were. I met this gentleman. His name is Jim Freeman. Now, Jim Freeman lived in Bhubaneswar from 1960 to 62, possibly, then 71 to 73. He is an retired professor of Santa Cruz University, USA. So I could reach the gentleman. He told me, in fact, I have some of the pictures of his in this book. So he told me that I have 2000 pictures of Bhubaneswar. Can you imagine? 2000 pictures of Bhubaneswar. That is again on the slide format. Slide is that
Plates.
plate format. So he has that, and he gave me all the images that he gave me. He converted, digitized it,
And then
and
he.
gave it to me. And a person 85, 89, I don't remember the exact age, gentleman could do it for me. I'm extremely thankful.
I think we all are. I mean,
Yes.
it just.
You'd find one picture where a old jeep is being pulled by a bullock cart in front of the State Museum. Now, this is the image that has come from Jim Freeman. This is a timeless picture. This is one of the best pictures that the book has.
I think every person residing in Bhubaneswar or any time who has been here would always feel grateful to the gentleman for being so kind.
I was
And
talking to you about the other gentleman whom I could not trace.
Trace, yes.
His wife was working with the Regional College of Education, the DM school and that area, that institution. Now, this was DM school is DM stands for Demonstration Multipurpose School.
Yes.
Now, this DM school has been attached to this Regional College of Education.
Right.
They had two school buses. These school buses were very unique
Why?
because they had a particular design and it was not as usual as the road transport buses that used to ply in the city. There was hardly any private buses. So these two buses were outstanding
And
always
unique, yeah.
and unique. I wanted a photograph of that.
You had seen them?
I had seen them.
Yeah, but you wanted a photograph
I wanted a photograph. I got it from this Mr. Walt Brown.
from his wife.
From his collection uploaded in the net.
Net.
That bus standing in front of DM school, people who have lived in that locality or people who have gone to DM school would immediately connect to their bus. Yeah, हमारा bus है, and they were very proud
Proud
of
of it.
their
Yes,
unit.
yes, yes. So how did it start? What was the starting point for you? I mean, I understood the time frame. It was COVID and you thought it's time to give back to the city that has always given me. And that's how the book's idea was born. But I would like to know how the idea manifested itself. What was the starting point?
I think there was somebody who asked me, why is this square called Rupali Square?
I had the same question the first time I came to Bhubaneswar. I was told that the chart is exquisite, and that is why the square got its name from the chart shop.
No,
That's what I was told.
no. There is a gentleman, Mr. G. Apparao. I think G. Apparao was his name. He had a restaurant, South Indian restaurant. Name was Rupali. That South Indian restaurant was at that crossing where we have a top-notch jewelry brand showroom now.
Sakhi.
No, Malabar.
Malabar, okay.
Okay, that building, that corner had this restaurant called Rupali Restaurant, which was there for 1 year or so, not more than that.
Oh, it was not a very continuous restaurant, and even so, the
No,
square got its name
no.
from it.
But before that, there was no other shop
Okay,
there.
so there
So
was no
that
landmark.
that was the landmark, and Epicol came after that. So it would have been Epicol Square either way, normally. But because Rupali came in
Picture, yes.
first, and Rupali was popular, so the buses used to call it
Rupali
Rupali
Square,
Chapka.
huh?
Now this Rupali Square, that name continues, but the shop closed maybe 1 or 2 years.
So, did you happen to connect to
So
this?
that question
Haha,
started my,
a
you know,
friend.
I thought that I should do something to document all these places. Let's talk about Master Canton Square or
So,
Rupali
Master
Square.
Canteen was a place where people used to go to eat. It was a proper canteen, right?
No,
No, it was a Punjabi shop or something I've heard.
there are again two different stories. I
Yeah, I
am
think
not
these are
very
all
sure,
folklores, yes, huh?
but one is that this was a canteen, which was a canteen which was selling not only food, was selling other items also, like those
Stationaries. Acha, okay,
army
that
canteen
way.
types
Acha,
and
okay,
all.
okay, okay.
But one of the construction companies building secretariat was known as Master Construction, and their people who were working, their workers, there were a number of workers, maybe 200, 300 workers. They didn't have a place to eat. So is food, their canteen was set up in this place,
Where they could
and
all
the
eat, huh?
company was Master Construction. So
And
it
that's
was
how the
called,
name
it was
Master
Master
Canteen.
Canteen.
Okay.
This is one part of the story. The other is the other canteen that I mentioned to you about. There was a shop which was
And
selling everything, was managed by a person who was a migrant from, he came from, relocated from Pakistan to Bhubaneswar, and earlier he was into tailoring business.
okay.
So he was a tailor, so
Tailor master.
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 So he was popularly called as master. So he was known.
For
His
his
canteen was known as Master
Master
Canteen.
Canteen. Okay. So these are completely two very different stories, but they all merge on the same platform that, they both where the name derives itself. So I was, while you were telling me about the Pakistani immigrant, I was trying to recall, it would have been better if he was an English immigrant because then I could at least make it that, his name would have been Master, right? And it would have been easy to correlate, but okay, I could see it happening now. Yeah, but which one of the stories do you believe? I mean, you were there. I mean, not.
I think the master, because I've seen the master person.
Uh huh. The Tailor
They,
Master? Yeah.
yes. There were four brothers. One of the brother is the Lalchand jewelers.
Okay.
Okay.
I
So
did not know that their roots could be traced back to
they
Pakistan.
they're four brothers,
Uh-huh.
four or five brothers they had come. So they had four of them settled here in that locality. They have one plot divided into four. So one of them was master.
Uh-huh.
So master was managing that shop. So it was known as master canteen.
Master Canteen. Wow. This is like going through time. I mean, this is like if Bhubaneswar
And
was wrapped into a
they had relocated to somewhere else. They had probably relocated to somewhere in UP from Pakistan. Then one of the brothers came and saw that this city is developing. There's a
and
new
there's
city coming.
prospect here,
So he
yes.
brought his all other brothers, and you
And they are
come and
now.
settle here.
Wow. So while you were going through all of this, and I could see while you were talking, I could notice it in you that not only while writing this book or, compiling this book, you were already compiling the book since your youth because you had seen the culvert. You'd seen the use of culvert. You'd seen the buses, by RIE or by the DM school. So you'd seen all of them and you had filed them away in your memories. And now when the time called, you started bringing them back and you wanted pictures to, supplement the stories. But what is that one story that you would always remember that from Bhubaneswar that no matter what, it's something that nobody can take away from you?
There are a number of memories, but one memory is of Moonstone.
Moonstone,
Yeah. Now, Moonstone, when 1969, Neil Armstrong went to
moon
moon, so he carried some stones back
from the moon.
from the moon. Now, this moonstone was brought into sent to different parts of the world for people to see how the moonstone looks like.
Okay.
So that it came to Bhubaneswar.
In 60s?
Yes.
Okay.
And it was displayed in that particular building I mentioned, that institution of engineers. So people used to line up whole Sachivalaya Marg,
To see a piece of moon?
piece of moon.
Oh my
And
God.
not only that, they used to give us a badge,
Oh,
a
you're
small
one of the
badge.
witnesses, yes.
I have seen
Seen the moon.
Moonstone.
Yes. And how old were you back then?
I was probably 9, 10 years old. That was a lot of excitement, at that
Why this is
age.
getting exciting. I mean, I am getting excited to know that we have a moonstone in the city and how come I was never told about
No,
it.
I don't know whether it's still there or not,
It's lost?
or it had come for display and taken back. I
Back,
don't know,
maybe.
possibly.
So you saw it.
I
So
saw
so you're one of the Bhubaneswar walas who's seen a piece of moon. Fantastic, fantastic. So that's one core memory.
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Anything that makes you sad about Bhubaneswar now?
You see, first was definitely the breeze that we used to have, the afternoon breeze that we used to have, thanks to all the forest around the city. And the one thing that is bothering me is lack of water bodies in the city. We had number of water bodies,
You mean ponds?
ponds, and those natural drainage. Bhubaneswar was of different gradients and had its own natural drainage. Those natural drainages are blocked. So today what you see waterlogging and all this is not because of waterlogging, because it's purely man-made by we, the Bhubaneswarians. We have blocked the national natural drainage, and that is why the water is not flowing into the
Its
river,
own, yeah, its own course, yes.
and we are having
Monsoon is terrible in parts of Bhubaneswar, yes.
you see, we have seen waters, any kind of water. would not be there in the city after half an hour of rain. Everything will flow into the river. But that is not happening today. It's a matter of concern. So is the ecosystem, in the sense we need to have proper city forest, we need a proper city water body.
True. Now, I've seen this book, I've been through it, and I can vouch for one thing. The book is great, but talking to you has been delightful, and they are mutually inclusive. Talking to you would not have been enough if I had not gone through the book first, and likewise. But if you had to write another book now on Bhubaneswar, what would it be about?
I'm working on two books on Bhubaneswar.
As of now?
Yes.
Okay.
See, that was the first book is something which was planned earlier, but could not complete it properly. So I took up this and thought that I'll finish it first. The other one is whatever I told you, the contemporary history of Bhubaneswar. That is being documented.
Okay. Does it have a set theme to it, or is it,
It's
just a
genuine.
compendium?
It's like, like the story of Master Canteen story of Rupali
Ah,
Square. Today, there is a place called Kalpana Square.
uh-huh.
The,
But why is it called Kalpana Square?
see, now you have the question. Now,
So
why is
I,
it called Kalpana
Kalpana
Square?
Square, yes.
There used to be a movie theater in the
Kalpana,
name
oh
of
yes,
Kalpana
I was
Square.
told, yes, I was told, yes, yes. There was a Kalpana movie theater,
Okay.
yes.
Now, who was that person who did that movie theater, Kalpana Square? That was the first movie theater of modern Bhubaneswar, this part of Bhubaneswar. Old Bhubaneswar had one older
Theater.
theater called Rup
R-
Mandir
Roop Mandir, okay.
that was closer to the temple, and temple in the sense Lingaraj temple. But the oldest theater in this part of the city was Kalpana, which is no more there. But the square is known as Kalpana Square. So a generation down, maybe 20, 30 years down, people will not know that, because
Yeah.
elderly people like us, once we are gone, the story goes.
But it's great that you're leaving such a great legacy
So
behind.
that is why that book is coming, which is talking about everything.
I have read this book by one of the leading historians of the state, Mr. Anil Dheer. So he once gave me one of his books called, it was based on post offices. So what he did was he went around the state and he documented all the Indian post dark offices, Dakoghara. And he's come up with such great exemplary, for example, he's come up with this Indian post office, which is located in an English master teacher's house, because he was selling so many books, so many copies of his books. The Indian Post thought maybe we could plant a post office at his house so that it becomes less burdensome. And it blew my mind away that we have one of the oldest post offices in our state and nobody ever talks about it. So I'm sure the other two books that you're writing right now would be huge success, and I would definitely be a loyal reader, and I'll definitely be talking to you again about those two books again. But yeah, I mean, if there is one thing that you could change in Bhubaneswar, while you have seen Bhubaneswar grow as you were growing older in the city, if there's one thing you could change, for better or worse, I mean, it's up to you, what would that be?
Population
Would you increase it or decrease it?
decrease. Because, we have lived in a time where every third person knew the first person. So that means every alternate person in the city. Because the population was hardly 50, 60,000. 1961 census is probably 60,000, including the old town, and 71 census was 1 lakh. So not only you knew everything, let's say we were kids, we go to watch a movie.
Uh-huh.
Now you see your teacher or your classmate's elder brother there. So he comes and informs your brother or your sibling that your
Ah,
say
yes,
your
yes.
brother was there in that
Movie theater,
movie
yes, yes,
theater.
yes.
Yes,
It
yes,
had
this
its
is
own, bad effects, but
bad event. It has all good effects also.
but now when we look back on those times, it sounds all funny and great. Yeah. What is your favorite part of the city?
Uh, I think Janpat. I
Why?
have fond memories of cycling from.
Okay.
We used to live in a place called Unit 9. From there, we used to cycle to BJB College. And so, with those breeze against you, you cycling down to the college, which is a distance of 5 6 kilometers, was very, which has it had its charm and excitement together.
True. So I think I am at a stage right now where I'm yet to find my favorite spot in the city. But OUAT is my alma mater, and I've spent a good part of my time in Bhubaneswar there. So I think that area would be by far one of my most favorite spots because it had everything. It had fast food, it had slow food. By slow food I mean you wanted to have a proper meal. So there was this so when I came to Bhubaneswar, there were a lot of chalia hotels. And if there's one thing that makes me sad about Bhubaneswar now, the loss of chalia hotels. People may call them unhygienic, people may call them whatever they want to, but nothing beats the taste, that wood fire taste that you get in the food. Nothing beats it.
That is one thing which was also Chalia hotels were known as Vaina hotels.
Bhaina hotels.
But the other thing that I miss is selling of those corns,
Bhutta.
butta.
Bhutta.
Butta used to be sold at every corner.
They had this cement wala
Uh,
tapri and uske upar koila laga ke they used to
but today you don't have buttas,
you have sweet corns.
sweet corns, and even these buttas are sold boiled and sold with
There is this
chaat
one
masala. And,
guy who stands in front of exhibition ground.
hmm,
So far I've been able to spot just one.
hmm.
Earlier back in college, I think there was one guy or a couple of them sitting in the OUAT square. But now, among the last couple of years, I've seen just one guy who sits right opposite to the Ekamra hut or the exhibition ground, and he sells the fire roasted bhuttas.
Now talking of exhibition ground got its name. There was a exhibition called Expo 70, which was held in Japan in 1970.
Okay, hence the 70.
Yeah. So now this Expo 70
Mhm.
was a very big event internationally.
Mhm.
So each state, each country used to send representative to go and see Expo 70. It was on for 2 3 months. There was a Odisha delegation which went to
Japan.
see Japan to see Expo 70.
70.
When they came back and they decided that we would have
Something
an
similar.
industrial exhibition and
Okay.
we call it Odisha 70.
Mm.
Okay, so that was the place where
Mm.
the exhibition was held,
Mhm.
and that remained as the exhibition ground after that.
It's been like that forever now. Yes.
Yeah, it's probably now known as IDCO ground or IDCO exhibition ground. Then 1970, yeah, then they had in 71 or 72 again the same expo, Odisha 72 or something. But the first major exhibition was held in that ground in Odisha 70 was the exhibition.
So, we touched down on so many different memory points of Bhubaneswar. I think the most uncanny would be if I had to cite an equivalent to culverts, now would be Omfit booths. I see some
Yeah,
regular groups coming there all the time.
but
And
the booth keeper is providing a bench there.
Some
But
of them,
this was
yes, but not most of them.
this
Yeah.
were permanent ones
Permanent
available
ones,
on
yes,
the
yes,
house.
yes, absolutely. And that is one thing I absolutely love about Bhubaneswar, that you get home-fit tea every few kilometers, every few meters down the road. So if you're a tea holic, you are in for a treat. I mean, the taste may vary from booth to booth, but I find them generally good. And the other thing that I would really appreciate about Bhubaneswar is that if you're someone who's fond of slow life, not too much of hustle and bustle, this is one place to settle down. And this is something that some people might debate. I have heard sentiments like, oh, Bhubaneswar lacks industriousness. It is not as industrious as a capital should be. It is the house of all administrative blocks. And but somehow it lacks industriousness. Would you concur to that sentiment, that we are not industrious enough?
No, I don't think so. Because if you are looking at development and think that Bhubaneswar is not industrious and more administrative, I don't agree to it basically because Bhubaneswar, only part of Bhubaneswar is administrative.
Hmm. The Sachivalay part.
The Sachivalaya mark. Almost everything else is private.
Private.
Your most active, most happening place today is probably the Chandrasekharpur area.
Hmm.
Now this has completely
Challenged.
privatized
Hmm.
and doing well.
So, if for an outsider like myself who's been trying to settle here and has to go to a place just to get a feel of ancient Bhubaneswar, what would be that one place be? I've
You know,
tried the temples
temples is
one
to
way, but
one way,
huh,
but market building is something which has got everything, right from the shops to the chartwellas. The other is Kalabhumi. Kalabhumi is a beautiful
I've been there,
museum that has
yes.
come up.
I've been there.
So that is something I'm very proud of that place.
Hmm.
When someone comes to the city, then I make it a point that you visit two museums. One is
Hmm.
Kalabhumi, the other is the Tribal Museum.
Hmm.
Tribal Museum is also outstanding.
So, like when people talk about places, they usually identify them with a he or she. Let's do the very obvious. How do you identify Bhubaneswar? How does it talk to you, speak to you? As a female, as a male, or is it just a place in essence?
No, it will be a female. It will be a
You
female because
sound so like an old lover.
yes, I told you in the beginning the romance of Bhubaneswar is exclusive.
Oh, you sound so like an old lover, still not over your lover, right? It is so, so great, having on board with us today. And like I said, I was not born here, I was not raised here, but I've spent close to a decade here now, and I still feel like an outsider. But you would be the first person who's made me feel right at home. Nothing has ever felt so close to culture or roots. And it's great to have someone like you in the same city.
Pleasure is all mine. But yes, Bhubaneswar has been a very close to heart, and as you rightly said, that old lover of
Old lover, yes, of
Bhubaneswar.
course.
But looking at the city, there's two things I thought that I should mention here, which I have already said. One is city requires a comprehensive development plan.
Absolutely.
That's one, and the ecosystem act, which
A
said
long term plan is absolutely necessary.
something which should the the administration should look into as the ecosystem and save Sisupalagad. Sisupalagad is we talked in the beginning that it is the oldest fortification in the country. We have to save it. There's a lot of encroachment going on. Government should look into it and save that. Because once it is spoiled,
It's gone
then
forever. There
we
is no.
lose our history.
Something as ancient as that needs to be
Yes.
preserved, yes.
Yes.
That's a tangible physical evidence of time itself. So thank you so much, sir, for today's episode. It has been so lovely. I don't know, I am running out of words to describe. I have had many, many guests before you, and all of them, we have delved into so many different topics. We've talked about history before, we've talked about the origins of temples before, the religious, culture of the state before, but nothing has hit home like this. The conversation was absolutely profound and nostalgic, even to someone who's never been a part of the city to begin with. And hoping to making more episodes with you. And all the best to both your
Thank you.
books. And thank you so much. And to all you guys who've been born here and raised here, if you have a favorite spot, or if there is a change that you would like to see in the city, do comment us below. Do give us a like, follow us, and subscribe to our channel. Until then, bye bye. This is Tanya signing off from Tea with Tanya.